This is ATL Day Ones, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
Welcome into ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and Tenitra. We want to just say thank you for making ATL Day Ones your first listen of the day. Remember, we're free and available wherever you download your podcast. And wherever you download your podcast, make sure you leave us a 5-star review because guess what, y'all? We don't hide greatness on this show. So go ahead and leave a 5-star review so everybody and their mom and them can find out what's going on right here on Locked On Sports Atlanta. We got a lot of good stuff on the show for today. But I want to just acknowledge one thing that's different for today. Tenitra is not with us for today. She'll be back. Don't start crying and all that good stuff. But we do have somebody sitting in and filling in, and hopefully he'll be able to fill it in those shoes, and I'm sure he will. His name is Andy Bunker. He is the host of 92.9 The Game, Andy and Randy on the midday show. Man, I just want to say a quick welcome to my guy, Andy. Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. Was the goal to get the most opposite person from Tenitra as possible?
Yes, of course. Come on now. We're all about diversity, equity, and inclusion on this show, man. Come on now. Who else will I go to?
Tuning in, expected to see Tenitra, who does an amazing job and is also beautiful. And here I am. Male.
White male, Andy Bunker, filling in for black female, Tenitra Batiste. How about that? Yeah, man. You know, we're gonna figure it out, man. We're gonna figure it out for today. But I think we got a lot of good stuff. We're gonna talk about whether or not Terry Fontenot was starting to see some early returns on that 2022 draft class, and DeAndre Hunter just signed a 4-year, $95 million contract. We're gonna talk about whether or not he's the missing piece to get the Hawks back to the Eastern Conference Finals. And last but not least, and for the culture, the news about Charles Barkley just makes me happy. But before we do that, we definitely got to talk about the Atlanta Falcons getting a win on Sunday against the San Francisco 49ers bunk. And I think that some of the guys that, you know, that really started to shine, in this early on in this season, a guy like Tyler Algier, you saw him start to run wear those doggone defensive players from the 49ers down. And late in that game, you start to see some of the guys like Arnold Ebiketie. He was shining some. He started getting pressure on the quarterback. He had a sack negated by a Lorenzo Carter penalty. But I don't know about you, Bunk, but I think Terry Fontenot, and we all talked a lot of junk about getting early returns on this draft class last year, but I think that's starting to change this year as far as some of the young guys who's starting to get some of that early production early on in this season.
Yeah, I agree. And I think some of the guys from last year, too. Richie Grant looks like a guy. Like he looks like exactly who he was promised to be, ball hawk wise, out there making plays. I think I agree with the guys that you mentioned as well. Those guys were guys that you could have convinced me, and I think probably felt pretty confident about on draft day. Like, yeah, Arnold Ebiketie, okay, second-round draft pick from a big school. You feel pretty good about that. Drake London, you know, all the athleticism, played basketball, like he liked the frame, all that kind of stuff. The pick that they got crushed for was Troy Anderson. Some Montana. You look at some dude from Montana when Nakobe Dean was available. Right. Nakobe Dean can't get on the field. Troy Anderson had 12 tackles on Sunday and looked – I mean, he was everywhere. Him and Shawn Evans as the linebacking duo. And I know Michael Walker had to be injured in order for him to get the start, but I don't know how you keep that guy off the field after what he's done, given the chances that he's had. So, yeah, man, like the early returns on this draft class, very impressive. The fun thing is you're starting to see some of the pieces from last year's draft class be a part of it too. And, you know, now you're 6 weeks into the season, injuries are going to start to happen. They have started to happen. We're dealing with a handful of injuries now on defense. So that depth is going to be tested as well. And that's where that really is going to come into play. But yeah, I mean, if you're Terry Fontenot, I know it's only 6 weeks into season 2, but you probably take a moment driving home from that stadium on Sunday and think to yourself, all right, we maybe know what we're doing here with some of these defensive guys. Because that's about as good as a performance. I know everybody, you know, the national folks want to focus on Bosa and some of those guys not being out there for the 49ers. Falcons defense hold that offense to 14 points. I don't care if Joey Bosa's out there. He scored 14 points on offense. So you got to give the Falcons a lot of credit for what they did.
No doubt about it. And you talking about a Kyle Shanahan-led offense, who's a guy who I think is probably one of the – not probably. To me, he's the best play caller in the NFL, just from a scheme standpoint and just how he attacks defense, and you just see it just going back and watching some of the film, just like, man, this dude is absolutely amazing. And for the Falcons to be able to counter that and Dean Pease be able to counter that and not only have the game plan to counter it, but to have the guys to go out there and execute that game plan. And I think that, another guy they haven't mentioned is Taquan Graham. Taquan Graham is almost the exact opposite of what I saw last year. And just from why did they draft this guy? He was down at the Senior Bowl last year, got a chance to get some eyes on him going into the 2021 NFL draft. And I think it's just something that Terry Fontenot saw in him. And I think that you bring him in and you give the coaches the opportunity to develop him. That's the big piece right there that I think that's the difference between the previous regime, right? Like you have some guys, you see some potential in them, you bring them in. They don't necessarily show initially, but once they start working with this coaching staff and they start getting into the plan that they have for those guys' careers, and then you start to see some of the progression. And I think that Taquan Graham is taking advantage of that, and like you mentioned, Richie Grant has taken advantage of that as well. And it is just absolutely just dope to sit there and watch those guys kind of go out there and execute that plan. Now, I think, Bunk, another thing that I really like about it, that is another point that you brought up is, like, I wasn't too high on Troy Anderson coming in, right? Because, like you said, coming from a small school, of course, he's a workout warrior. That's kind of what I looked at him as because, he running the 4.4, big, strong. Okay, yeah, let me see what you do when you get out on the field. And I think that he's part of that plan, almost kind of like the Richie Grant plan, right? When you think about developing and spoon feeding him certain things, putting him in situations where he can flourish. And I think that the one thing that really just stands out to me when you talk about Troy Anderson is that the dude is just so explosive, man. That's why he's been such an asset on special teams. And you just see it. Like, okay, I understand why y'all drafted this dude. And for him to be out there being spoon-fed these things, and you starting to see those returns already, and he hasn't even this was his first start in the NFL, and granted, like you said, Michael Walker is no slouch either, but I think this inside linebacker core is in good shape for the next few years.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, you always like to see a guy, whatever his opportunity is going to be, special teams, he gets his first start, whatever, like, you notice him in a good way. You can get noticed in bad ways too, but he gets out there in was it the Saints? Was it week 1? Was it week 2 maybe, where he blocked a punt? Blocked a punt with his, and he didn't just get there. He blocked the thing with his chest.
He's in preseason, yeah.
Yeah, oh, it was, okay. He just got to the line and made a play. And then we've been talking about this all week last week about, like, okay, you're going to start a rookie. Michael Walker's been playing really good, but you're going to have to start a rookie. Kyle Shanahan knows that, and you know what they want to do. They want to run the football, and they want to get the ball to Deebo Samuels and their tight end George Kittle. That's a long day for a linebacker some days. You're going to to make him look bad, and he was out there able to hold his own. Shawn Evans has looked really good. He looks. You knew that he was kind of a tough physical player, but he's been good at coverage this year too. Passes defensed and stuff like that. Like, I don't know, man. It's pretty cool. It's really exciting to be 6 weeks into a season where the expectations, depending on who you talk to or who you are, weren't super high. Now all of a sudden you're 3-3. You're right there. Half the NFL's 3-3. So you're right there with all these teams, and you just look at your own division. Falcons are the only team in the NFC South that are trending up. The Bucs look like a disaster. Tom Brady looks like he regrets coming out of retirement, man. Like, he threw it all away for nothing, it looks like right now.
He's Brady on the sidelines. He's
like
Bradying folks on the sidelines. Yeah.
Like, and if it wasn't for a horrible call at the end of the Falcons game, Falcons might be 4-2 and the Bucs might be 2-4. And the Saints are a disaster. Everybody's hurt. And the Panthers already fired their coach. Jacob Eason played for the Panthers on Sunday. In the fourth quarter. Like, that's how bad things are for the Panthers. So the Falcons are the only team in the division right now that should have optimistic fans. And that's, I don't know, man. I didn't think we'd be saying that 6 weeks into the season. It's very cool.
Yeah, and it's super cool to see what Arthur Smith and Terry Fontenot's vision has been for this team. And like you said, and he's getting those early returns on the draft class. It's just a lot of good things going on for the Atlanta Falcons as they sit tied at the top of the NFC South with a team that looks like they're falling apart. So, hey, it's all good. Now the Falcons have a very important matchup coming up against the Cincinnati Bengals. So I want you to go to betonline.net to check out what the over-under is for that game. I'm sitting here looking at it. I have it pulled up here on my computer. It's 47.5. So if you're wondering, trying to figure out where you need to go, where you need to bet, go to betonline.net because it's the fastest, easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find all your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. I've been trying to rack my brain, trying to figure it out because, if you're just struggling a little bit, if you don't want to go read, if you don't like to read sometimes I just like to listen to a podcast and trying to figure it out. BetOnline got that for you as well. Because it continues to be a top online source for all sports wagering information, live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts. They got you all covered. If you're not into the NFL, which is, I don't understand why you wouldn't be, or the NBA, they're getting ready to start tonight as well. They got esports, they got combat sports, and even golf whenever that gets popping off. So all of those things, if you want to go to betonline.net, because guess what, guys? You can use your mobile device and learn more about information that's happening in today. Because guess what, guys? BetOnline is where the game starts. It is ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and Tenitra. We have a very special guest, Andy Bunker, sitting in. He joins us today for Tenitra Batiste. She will be back. I know you guys started crying. I know you got all your tears out of the way, but she hasn't left us. She'll be back. So I want you to stick around because we are talking about the Atlanta Hawks. DeAndre Hunter signed a 4-year, $95 million deal, Bunk. And I think that when you think about the Hawks actually waiting till the absolute last minute to get this deal done, that, hey, there were some reports that, they were kind of far apart as far as what that number would look like, but the Atlanta Hawks finally get the deal done. So, does it change any expectations for you as far as for DeAndre Hunter or does it stay the same?
That's a great way to think about it. Even before the contract got announced last night, signed, whatever, DeAndre Hunter felt like the X factor for the season for me because he feels like what Trey is going to be at this point. Like Trey, right. He's going to give you a lot and he's going to be very good as long as he's healthy.
Indeed.
You know what you're getting from Trey, and who knows? He's still a very young player, so he can get better. DeJounte Murray, of course, is the big story of the offseason, and everyone's excited to see what he looks like coming in as well. But I think even with that, there's kind of a baseline of what you expect from him. DeAndre Hunter, who knows? And the big question mark is health, of course. It has been his entire career so far. So even before we knew that he had a 4-year contract, his ability to be on the floor and impact what the Hawks did, to me, was one of the most important parts of this season. Maybe even the most important part just because of the unknown. Now you add $95 million to it. You hate to say that you have more expectations for someone because of the money that's attached to it, but you think about now they've signed these guys all together. Like they're going all in on this group. Right. Trey, DeJounte, DeAndre, John Collins, Clint Capella, and some of the guys they have on the bench. That's your salary cap. That's your money. And if DeJounte plays well, he's going to get a contract extension as well, which is worth more than he's got now. So, you're saying we believe in this core that we can win with them. So, yeah, there's a lot of pressure on all of them to go out there and prove them right. When I saw the report, when I saw what the number was, okay, 4 years, $95 million. If DeAndre Hunter is as good as he's shown in very small glimpses, as good as everyone thinks that he can be if he's healthy, we're going to be looking at this contract in 2 years thinking about what a great deal it was.
Yeah.
If DeAndre Hunter gets hurt, this contract could be a disaster. Like that to me, this contract either is the reason why the Hawks are like legitimate Eastern Conference contenders for the next couple of years because of how team friendly this contract could be if he's great. Or this could be the reason why Travis Schlenk and Nate McMillan are looking for jobs if this thing doesn't go well. Like this, to me, this was an all-in, type. And again, I understand it's not a max deal or anything like that, but
right, yeah.
You're a guy who you still have that many question marks about $100 million is you're saying this is the group we're going to try to win with.
And I agree, because I think that, I know for me, it doesn't necessarily really change the expectations. Like, I can't put expectations on whether or not he gets hurt. Like, it's kind of hard for me to do that, because like you can't control that. You know what I mean? Like, but you can just work out as much as you possibly can and make sure you take care of your body and you're doing everything on that end, and then you just let the chips fall where they may. But I know one thing about DeAndre Hunter. When I saw him on that court, and that dude was a factor, especially in the playoffs when Miami Heat did everything they could to stop Trae Young, and nobody has really got an opportunity to do that. We saw it firsthand. And I wholeheartedly believe that that's the reason why they went out and got DeJounte Murray, because of that. So, you know what I mean? So those are some of the factors that when you bring DeJounte Murray into the equation, you get another ball handler, and then I just getting the chance to check out DeAndre Hunter in the preseason, he looks more comfortable handling the rock. And I think that when you have that, you add that to the equation, you push all the chips to the table, just like you said, and say, okay, we're betting on this guy being healthy. That's all this contract says to me. They're betting on him being healthy and being out on the court. And to be honest with you, all I would like for him, maybe like 65 games. That's the number for me. If he can play 65 games, I'm not even asking for 82. He can play 65 games and remain mostly healthy throughout the season, I think that the Hawks will be contenders, because when you think about the makeup of this team, it's hard for me not to get excited about this team. I've been trying to hold myself down because, as much as I try to be objective about this team, it's kind of hard not to get behind this team and be a fan of it, because you just look where they came from, just being at the bottom of the barrel in the Eastern Conference, and then you get a guy like Trae Young. You draft Luka Doncic first. Then you trade for Trae Young. You trade Luka Doncic for Trae Young, and then we're sitting here right now. I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. You know what I mean? And a lot of people think that Luka Doncic is probably going to be the face of the NBA right now. They can't wait till a couple of years from now when LeBron leaves and all that stuff, but they're trying to do that right now. But you just kind of see like all the pressure that Trae has to deal with, on a nightly basis, because a lot of people try to tell, Trae, hey, he's not going to be that guy, but he's proven to be that dude. And for him to be able to come in and have a guy like Dre come in, I think it's going to be something interesting to watch once the season gets rolling tomorrow against the Houston Rockets.
Yeah, no, it's funny you say the number 65. I was talking about it earlier today, and then we'd use the number 70. So we're right around the same.
Yeah.
You know what? And some of those could be rest days, whatever. Just give me 65, 70, and then healthy in the playoffs. That's what I need from DeAndre Hunter.
Yes.
And we'll call it a win, because we haven't gotten there at any point of his career so far. And I'm with you. Like, I've stopped trying to be objective about this basketball team, because I'm so in the bag for them. Like,
yeah, man,
I don't
same
know,
here.
They might disappoint. Who knows? So what? If they do, then you get disappointed. But like, I already loved most of the guys anyway. Then they went out and got DeJounte Murray, who from UW.
He's from around the way, so he's from the crib. So
yeah. And the head coach is Nate McMillan, who's Mr. Sonic. Like,
he's like Mr. Seattle. Yeah,
I'm just, like, I cannot talk objectively about. I just am gonna have a bias towards this basketball team. I also think that they have a chance to be really good as well. And I just think that the thing that is possible, and you and I have talked about this a lot back in the day. We talk about how a great, entertaining NBA basketball team in this city can dominate that time of year, dominate the calendar from January until June. If you have a compelling product, you put something out there like kind of what they did a couple of years ago in the Eastern Conference team, but like more consistent than that. Like you put a team together that can be a perennial Eastern Conference threat for 5 to 7 years, 10 years, something like that. They're going to own this town from New Year's Day, when football season, whenever football season ends, until the middle of the summer. People are going to like you see it with the ratings for the NBA Finals in Atlanta every single year.
Yes,
people love the NBA in Atlanta. We just need a team, that sort of represents the city a little bit. And I think this group has a chance to really do that. So, man, I'm with you. I'm fired up. I think they got a chance to be really good. They're fun is sometimes a dismissive way to describe teams. Like, I think they can be good and fun at the same time. And if they are, they're gonna take this. They're gonna take over this city that time of year, and I think that they will.
No doubt about it. And I just want one last thing I kind of want to touch on. I got to bring up JC, right? John Collins. I got to bring him up. I have to bring up that dude, right? So here's the thing with John. I think it's gonna be very interesting to watch is how Nate McMillan implements him into the offense, because I got like a peek into it, watching some of the preseason games and seeing how he's working the pick and roll with DeJounte and Trey. So I think that when having that extra ball handler in this equation for JC, I think that's gonna do nothing but help kind of justify the money that he's going to be getting going forward. And I know you like to stay out of folks' pockets. I like to stay out of folks' pockets mostly when it comes to the contracts and play. I try to keep those things separate. But I think that JC probably may be bound to have a really good season this year as well.
No, I think so too. And I think DeAndre Hunter has a lot to do with that as well, because the thing that people have to get over with John Collins is if you're going to get paid that much money, you need to create your own shot. He's not going to create his own shot. Like, he's just not. Like, like John Collins is going to be reliant on the offense that's run around him, offensive rebounding to a certain extent, but the pick and roll and what the offense does for him. Well, now you got Trey and DeJounte, who are both guys that can do a lot for their teammates. DeAndre Hunter is going to be the guy who we now shift our focus to and say, all right, you got to create your own shot too. Like, they're going to get you the ball on the perimeter. What's it look like when you put the ball on the ground? Can you create space? Can you get to the rim? You don't need that much. What's like, you got like a dribble step back. Like, how are you creating your own offense if the play breaks down or whatever in the half court? John Collins is not going to do that kind of stuff. And I like what you're talking about too. Like with DeJounte as well, he can initiate the pick and roll. So now you've got John Collins and all the athleticism that he brings to the table with another guy that can play make for his teammates. I'm with you. I think John Collins is a huge beneficiary of the DeJounte addition, and then also if DeAndre Hunter can be on the floor too. It'll just be really fun. You got a bunch of versatile basketball players, and that's something that Travis Schlenk has tried to put on this team all along. I mean, when Bogey comes back, she'll be a part of it. Like, they've just had guys,
another guy
with the ball in their hands, and I agree with you. Like, last year was a bad year for John Collins. He got all that money and then he was hurt and just didn't play good. So I think this year is really important for him.
Yes, indeed. And I think he's going to step up to the plate, because when you think about like what's been at stake and constantly being in all the trade rumors, and we don't even know if those still have died down. We may or may not see that. I don't think so at this point, because I think that, it's going to be vital for Nate McMillan, though, to kind of make sure that Trey is doing what he's supposed to do and getting everybody involved in this offense, because Trey is a guy that can get his whenever he get his. Yeah. John is going to be a guy that you're going to have to get him involved early so he can kind of get things moving and shaking with that offense early on. So, hey, he can kind of get into a nice flow. But speaking of nice flow, I know that, I'm the type of guy, Bunk. I've been working out. I've been trying to get myself together. I've been losing some weight, man. But the thing about it is that it's helped me do that. I've gone to Built Bar, and I've been getting those cookie dough chunk puffs, man. When you think about, you need a good pick me up, something that's going to help you out to get you through that workout. Cookie dough chunk puff is, whether you need a snack for your workout, a late night treat, or just need to grab a quick bite. Built is the perfect protein bar, and they taste better than a candy bar. Dish the calories, fat, and sugar. Grab yourself a Built Bar, because it is 100% real chocolate, and you got all the joys of eating cookie dough without the hassle of making it. Plus, it's healthy for you. You know why it's healthy for you? Because it's only 160 calories. And we're talking about 15 grams of protein, because they always say that, that you want to eat is the amount of grams of protein and that you want to get to your whatever weight you're trying to get to, right? So, just say, for instance, I'm trying to get 300 pounds. So that means I need to eat 300 grams of protein. So guess what? I need to eat a lot of Built Bars in order to get to that point. So just trying to lose this weight, but you know what? Now that I told you why you need to go to Built Bar, I'm about to give you some incentive to go there. So go to builtbar.com. Go to built.com. Use the promo code LOCKEDON15. You're going to get 15% off your order. Yes, you heard that correctly. So go to built.com. Use the promo code LOCKEDON15. You're going to get 15% off. Right now. Go there right now. Go ahead and pull up on the best doggone workout bar energy booster in the country. Final segment of ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and Tenitra. No, that is not Tenitra Batiste you're looking at. That is a white man. Tenitra is a black man. That is a black man. A black woman that's normally on this show, but that is Andy Bunker.
Plastic surgery.
Yes, that's a lot of money that Tenitra just spit right there, changing herself into a white man. That is not good. That would be a good decision. But yeah, that is Andy Bunker. He is the host of 92.9 The Game, Andy and Randy midday show. Filling in for Tenitra. She will be back tomorrow. But Bunk, this is for the culture. It is the intersection between sports, entertainment, and the culture. Sometimes whatever the hell you want to talk about.
Today is no. You brought me on for this.
Yes, of course. Like you're the definition of for the culture.
Not only am I ATL Day One,
right?
I'm also for the culture. So finally get down to business here on the podcast.
Man, we are knocking it out of the park with substitute today. You're the epitome of a substitute teacher today, my friend. But today is no different because I think when I came across this story, man, when you think about inside the NBA and what those guys bring to the table as far as just a studio show, I don't know about you, Bump, but for me, Chuck, Kenny, Ernie, and Shaquille O'Neal, like that is probably one of the best studio shows that I've ever that's part of this generation as far as what we've seen, and for Charles Barkley to sign the contract to be around for a very long time, that made me happy when I came across this story, man.
Yeah, I don't even know what studio show you'd say is second, you know?
Right, exactly. Like it's so far ahead of everybody else. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I guess there's been some okay groups of NFL,
some pregame shows, more.
When Fox really kind of started doing their pregame show different in the late 90s with all those guys, but it's just so long ago. They haven't really changed it since then. It kind of got stale.
Right.
So yeah, for sure. Like they're definitely pioneers as far as that goes. And when you are that, and because it's not only like the studio show is great, but like those guys, and especially Charles, Shaq too, but I think especially Charles, I mean, he's the kind of the media voice of the NBA.
Right.
You know, like when he says something, you know, when he really says something, not just the funny, silly stuff they do, and they do that better than everybody else too. But when he really says something, it just carries a lot of weight to it. I guess the second best would probably be College Game Time, college football game time on ESPN. That's probably the only thing that maybe comes close as far as relevance and longevity and all that kind of stuff. But so when you're that important and you have that much staying power, you get $100 million contract.
Right. Exactly.
That's been the wildest.
$10 million a year. Yeah. Talking about NBA. Yes.
Or more. Like it could be close to $200 million. Like that's been the wildest thing the last couple of years, being in this business sort of whatever. Like we're in sports media too, but obviously we're not like in that realm.
Yeah.
But to see broadcasters getting contracts that are like quarterback contracts, like Joe Buck going to ESPN for $100 million, and Tony Romo signing with CBS a contract, like it's crazy to be hearing about broadcasters getting money like that. And it makes sense that Charles Barkley would do that. I got a lot of respect for how he went about it too, because he wasn't leaving. Charles Barkley's not going anywhere. He wasn't going to go to the live golf thing and cover golf.
Yeah,
but at least he played like he was. You know what I mean? So there was no leverage, because the leverage that he had was always, okay, I'll just retire. It was never, I'm going to go someplace else. Like he's not going to ESPN. He's, there's only so many places you can go and actually cover the NBA and be on TV. and none of them were going to be anything like what he had. So to kind of play it a little bit and be like, yeah, man, well, maybe I'll go cover golf, man. I don't know.
Yeah, and that Brinks truck of a place that, they've been backing up the Brinks truck for everybody. So we already know if you would have at least really considered that, it would have been all about the bread, man. But I think that when you have like the precedent that they've set for NBA studio shows, it's unmatched. Like, it's so high that nobody tries to reach it. And I think that and TNT, Warner Brothers or Turner, whatever it is called nowadays, they understand what it is too, because their contract is getting ready to come up with far as broadcasting NBA games. And when you have a show like Inside the NBA locked in, no pun intended, you understand that, hey, that may be a negotiating tool for you guys for the NBA to say, hey, you know what? You guys have the show that everybody likes to watch as far as covering doing those pre-games and post-games. Hey, we're going to re-up for the next 20 years for how many $1 billion they want to do for to have the broadcasting rights.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I'll watch a regular season NBA game, a non-Hawks regular season NBA game, more if it's on TNT and I know I'm going to get to see those guys pregame, halftime, and postgame.
Yes, sir.
Than if it's on ESPN or whatever. Like, ESPN has also ran through 10 different combinations of studio shows trying to create something anywhere near. Just think of all, they've thrown blank at the wall. Like, they had
Magic Johnson
on there together.
Sage Steele. Wow,
Jalen Rose.
Michelle Steele. Was Michelle Steele on there too? Michelle Beadle. Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Now they had Rachel Nichols, and she got out of there. Yeah. Now they got Malika Andrews.
Malika Andrews now.
Malika Andrews for some reason.
Yes, it's some drama in the NBA, man.
ESPN can't keep a group together. Meanwhile, TNT's got these 4 guys that have been working together for 20 years. And I think the other thing about it, because Chuck got his new deal, but I guess all of those guys signed new deals at the same time.
Right.
And obviously Charles Barkley is the most important part of that group.
Indeed.
I think they would all agree on that. Everybody understands that. But they're all really important. Like, in order for that show to work the way that it does, Shaquille O'Neal has to be there too. But Shaq has to be there because Shaq's the only one that can say the kind of stuff Chuck is the only one that can say the kind of stuff to Shaq that he says. Nobody else can come at Shaq.
No, not at all.
Yeah. But then Kenny Smith, the way he fits in and his relationship with Charles Barkley, he's got to be there too to sort of be the kind of the even it out between Shaq and Chuck.
To balance those two guys, yeah.
But then, Ernie Johnson too.
He probably has the most important spot, right?
Yeah, the amount of respect that they have for him and the broadcast talent that he has. The 4 of them are just the most perfect combination, and it's very cool that they all re-upped to keep doing it together. Because Ernie's not young. Ernie Johnson's not young. Shaq can do anything he wants. He's got $1 billion, a million revenue streams. Chuck can do whatever he wants. Kenny Smith is taking interviews for general manager jobs. So all these guys, have other directions that they can go in. I'm really glad that they kept it together because I just from a fan standpoint, I love tuning in and watching who knows where they might go.
Right?
Who knows? The basketball analysis is great. They are all talented in that way, but when Shaq and Chuck and Kenny start getting
poking at each other, man,
or whatever, that's the good stuff. That's the stuff that you can't fabricate that. And they've got something special, and it's cool that they get to keep doing it.
It is so hard to mimic when you talk about the chemistry. You can't imitate chemistry, dude. You can't fake that at all. Now, speaking of longevity, how about this, man? 10-year celebration of 92.9 The Game has been around. I remember back in the day, I was there too. From October of 2012 when I was hired there. I started there December 1st, man, and you came, 2014 when you came?
16. I got here in 2016. So I've been more than half of the 10 years I've worked at 92.9. But everything interesting happened pre-2016. 92 on the game is celebrating a 10-year anniversary.
Yeah, man.
But
yeah.
everything interesting. I mean, the on-air product, I think, has probably gotten better.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah.
Everything,
definitely.
like, from the drama standpoint, all the fun nonsense, that all happened in the first 3 years. So, like, it's so funny because, like, when I started at 92.9, you know, and started working with you and all that kind of stuff, the stories that you guys told about, because at that point it was 4 years old, right?
Right, yeah,
so
4 years old.
You guys told about the first couple of years, those are the same stories people tell now. Like,
yes, they still living on.
No good off-the-air stories have happened since like 2013. Like, all the drama happened in the first 18 months, and now it's just like a bunch of boring professionals that work at a radio station.
Like, so it's just been kind of basically spinning the wheels ever since the good old days.
Like, I think it's better probably for business now. Like,
yes, of course, definitely, most definitely, yes.
Having like reliable, you know, mentally healthy radio.
So many jokes I want to throw in right now. I can't do it.
Having a boss now that, you know, maybe is a little bit more
amenable.
I don't know. I'm not gonna badmouth the old guy because he hired me, and I wouldn't have this job if it wasn't for him and all that. But the stories I hear about some of the shenanigans. Yeah, man, we're just a boring radio station now. Back then, it was crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy, man. A lot of, like, I have so many stories to tell. Maybe I'll tell them on the podcast one of these days.
Are you going to come on Saturday?
Yes, I will be there. I'm just trying to figure out what time I need to be there because you know me, man. I'm not the first to get there guy, but I don't want to be the last to get there guy. So I'm trying to figure out like what's a good time in between time to get there, so I can make sure that I'm not there too long. By 1 o'clock?
Because we got to do an hour. Me and Randy got to be on the air from 2 to 3.
Okay.
And then it goes until 6. So 6 hours at a brewery is a long.
That's a very long time.
You got to be a vet in order to manage
to be able to hold it down.
Not everybody can do 6 hours at a brewery and keep it together.
I think my cushion time maybe between about 2:30 and 3:30. I think that's gonna be my time right there.
Well, I think if you come between 2 and 3, we'll probably just have you on the air.
Oh, that'll be amazing.
You know,
I'll tell those stories on those.
So if you come, that's less work for me. So
yes, because you know I'll wreck a show in a heartby. Like, I'm just gonna get on there and talk about. I don't care what the rundown says. We're just gonna talk about what I want to talk about.
Good, yeah.
So it'd be good to go out and celebrate with 92.9 The Game. That's my former station for y'all who don't know. 10-year anniversary, man. That is cool. You talking about in today's climate of sports talk radio, to be around for 10 years is definitely going to be a celebration. Can't wait to show up and see you, my friend, and check you out. And also, I want to thank you for sitting in for Tenitra Batiste today. She will be back tomorrow, guys. So make sure you come check us out. And also remember that we are on Roku and Amazon Fire TV. So, hey, if you want to see my ugly mug on your big screen television, go ahead and do that. We also want to thank you for making ATL Day Ones your first listen today. And also remember that you have Hitting Hard with John Chuckery. Make sure that you make them their second listen of the day. And we'll be back tomorrow. Bump, you got anything before we get out of here, man?
I mean, TTFN, right? That's how we used to wrap it up every night.
Yes, TTFN, and make sure. Yes, sir. So that means, y'all come back now. You hear?